Welcome back to the Rodecast, guys. Hope you're doing well out there. I'm your host, Rod, as always. And in this video, we're going to be doing an update to a prediction that I made about 10 days ago regarding the deployment of National Guard troops to Portland and Chicago. And in this case, we're going to be talking about Portland specifically. And that is because, as I predicted, and it wasn't that hard of a prediction, the appeals court, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, have ruled against the judge who put a TRO, a temporary restraining order, in place to stop Trump from sending National Guard troops to Portland. And I told you guys back then when I made my original video that this is a ridiculous decision. And that is because anybody who can read English and can read the law in question here can see that this law clearly allows the president to be the person who decides when it's necessary to send the National Guard, not the judges. Okay, I made that very clear in my video, which I'll show you guys a little bit of that. But the only thing I wasn't 100% sure is whether the Ninth Circuit would do the right thing. And they have, so credit to them, because the Ninth Circuit always does stupid stuff when it comes to immigration-related things, because even the so-called conservative judges always try to help out the immigrants and the illegals. It's very sad, but in this area, even Trump-appointed judges have ruled in the wrong way. And I'm not talking politically, I'm talking following the law. Here, this was not even a hard question, okay? The law was written by Congress. The judge's job, the federal judge's job, is to properly interpret the intent and the written word of the law. That's their job, not to inject their personal beliefs about insurrections and when one has occurred. That's not their job. Okay, Judge Immigrant, or whoever the district judge was, she was a Trump-appointed judge, but nevertheless ruled the wrong way because she was trying to inject her own decisions and interpretations of what was happening in Portland into this decision. That's not her job. Her job is to read the law and tell us what it actually says and how it should be interpreted, okay, as Congress has written it. And if you read this law, you can see what Congress intended.
We said it was going to happen today, and it did happen today. Breaking news out of Portland. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals has overturned Judge Immergut's order blocking the federalization of the National Guard, which means President Trump can deploy the National Guard into Portland, Oregon. That is a big, big, big deal. Lisa Rubin, MSNBC legal correspondent Lisa Rubin, with us.
So let me quickly show you guys a little bit of what I said. But anyways, even under this law, it's not up to the judges to determine when there's an insurrection, or in this case, non-compliance with federal law. If federal law is not able to be enforced, then the president can take necessary steps and deploy, both federalize and deploy the National Guard where he sees fit. And it specifically says in such numbers as he considers necessary. Not in such numbers as a district court judge considers necessary, but it says in such numbers that the president, he in this case is the president, considers necessary. So, and then at the end of the video, I made my prediction about what would happen here. Okay. And they have solid legal arguments on their side. And when these cases make it up to the Supreme Court, or hopefully an appeals court, they rule in the correct way, which is that it's up to the president to determine if there is a need to deploy the National Guard. The point is, he has all the legal authority to do it, and that's the bottom. And the reason I said that is because this is such an easy question that it's embarrassing for Judge Immigrant, or whatever her name is, for her to get this wrong, especially a judge who was chosen by Trump, which doesn't make him look good either, by the way. Whoever picked up this person, she can't even read the law as is written by Congress. Okay, this is not that difficult. There are many legal questions that are iffy, and you can go both ways. This is not one of them. All you had to do was read the law and just say, yeah, I don't like it, but it's up to Trump to determine that. That's what these judges said. These Ninth Circuit judges, I seriously doubt they're crazy MAGA people. Okay, they're just conservative judges. Two of them were appointed by Trump, it just so happens, but it doesn't matter who appointed them. Any fair-minded person looking at this law will say that it's up to the president. It's not up to us. It's not up to the judges. And the Supreme Court will most definitely rule exactly the same way. Okay, so now we have competing decisions from the Ninth Circuit here, where Trump won, and the Seventh Circuit, who ruled against Trump on this question. So now it's up to the Supreme Court to decide this. Okay, before we get to the meritorious arguments, the Supreme Court will most likely say that it's up to the president to do it, and then we'll go to full arguments, and it'll take a longer time to do that. But if we need to deploy, if the president needs to deploy a national guards to help out ICE again, then he will be able to do it. The whole point is, more than the specific situation here, what's important is this legal decision has been entered, and it's set a kind of a precedent, not a permanent one, because this can be reversed. I don't think it will be reversed, because if they ruled like this for this TRO, then in the future, when this case goes to full arguments, they will rule the same way. They basically said that it's most likely that Trump and the government will win on full briefing on when it goes to meritorious arguments, which means that the entire case will be argued in front of the court, and they think that it's most likely that the Trump side will win.
Am I right? Big deal?
It is a big deal, and I want to just correct one thing and then explain why functionally it is the same. This is a stay of Judge Immergut's opinion, and that's why it reached the Ninth Circuit as soon as it did, because this is an emergency motion to essentially pause her order. But as a functional matter, you are absolutely correct. It has the function of overturning her order and thereby allowing the president to send the National Guard back onto the streets of Portland. And Katie, I want to read, if I can, just from a little bit of the beginning of this 93-page opinion. It says, after considering the record, and by the record they mean all the factual evidence at this preliminary stage, we conclude that it is likely that the president lawfully exercised his statutory authority under 10 U.S.C. section 12406. That's the statute we've been referring to as Title 10 when we have conversations about the National Guard deployments.
And by the way, that goes for any president. We're not just talking about Trump. So when they read the law like this, the law was written in such a way, and we went over the law here in my video. This law, it could be used by Biden as well. Okay, Obama could have used it. There's no partisanship here. Okay, the point is, this is a question about the division of power and who has the power in this particular question. When laws are written, the Congress and whoever is passing these laws or rules, federal rules for agencies, or it could be laws passed by Congress, they always include who is supposed to be the arbiter of whatever is going on, like whatever the law has to do with. There's somebody who decides. So in some cases, when it comes to funding stuff, usually Congress is in control of funding something or not. Okay, that's because that's their constitutional duty. When it comes to foreign policy stuff, usually the president is in control of deciding things. They have what's called plenary authority over, for example, war powers on most issues, except for funding of wars, which is up to Congress. Again, funding constitutionally divided into Congress's hands, usually. Okay. Some small exceptions, but other than that, most of the funding comes from Congress, okay, for anything in the government. And then when it comes to immigration, most of the power lies with the president. When it comes to execution of immigration policy, making of immigration policy, Congress is also involved in writing immigration laws. So everything is divided very carefully, and separate powers are given to separate branches. So when it comes to economic issues, for example, the courts have a lot of power to stop the president. Okay. When it comes to immigration, they don't have that much power. When it comes to questions like this, where this law specifically written by Congress gives the president the right to decide, it is not up to the judges to tell him what to do. Okay. So you're crossing the line when you do that stuff. So if you personally disagree with the president and what he's doing, that's a sad day for you. He was elected president. Okay. And that goes for every president. A lot of people were not happy when Biden was doing bad stuff, and neither was I. Same thing with Obama. Same thing with the first Trump administration. I don't agree with everything Trump does. Okay, I don't agree with that. I see all these people as politicians, and I don't have any obligations to love these people. And it's a big mistake to love politicians. Okay, you can appreciate the good things they do for America, but do not get obsessed with any of these people. It's a very bad idea because they will eventually betray you. Okay, I learned that the hard way with some people that I loved in the past, and we all have to learn our lessons. These are human beings. That means they're flawed, and they can always fail you. So don't make heroes out of these people, okay? Know that they're politicians, but get the best that you can out for the country out of these people, okay? When they do good things for America, I support them, okay? But I'm not obsessed with any of these politicians, and I recommend you don't get obsessed with them either, okay? Don't join any cults.
Which authorizes the federalization of the National Guard when the president is unable with the regular forces to execute the laws of the United States. And this is the important part. The evidence the president relied on reflects, quote, a colorable assessment of the facts and law within a range of honest judgment. We thus conclude that defendants are likely to succeed on the merits of their appeal, basically saying that when and if a court considers all of the record in this matter is tried and it gets back to an appellate court through an ordinary process where they have full briefing and full evidence, that they still think Donald Trump is likely to prevail there because he has the discretion to determine as the president within a range of honest judgment when it is reasonable to deploy the guard.
This is what you and I were talking about last week. Get into the slippery slope of discretion.
Yep.
When you start ruling when a president can do something that he has the power to do, then you start potentially handcuffing a president of the United States. And this Supreme Court has shown that they don't want any handcuffs whatsoever, even if it's a questionable assertion, even if it's a...
No, it's not a questionable assertion. So she's putting her feelings into this. This is a dummy. Okay. Lisa Rubin, to give her credit, was honestly interpreted the law properly here. Okay. And like I said, doesn't matter if it's Trump or anybody else. In this case, it happens to be Trump, but her breakdown of the law was correct. Now, this one here, this MSNBC anchor is trying to say, oh, it's so dangerous to to give so much discretion to the president. We know how they're going to go. They don't like Trump, whatever. That's their opinion. That's fine. But the point is, the original judge was incorrect, and the appeals court, Seventh Circuit, who ruled against Trump in this question when it comes to Chicago, which is even worse off than Portland, honestly. Okay, the Broadview facility was being attacked by a bunch of freaking Antifa criminals, so they needed the National Guard back then even more than Portland, which was not. I mean, there was some disturbances and some fights, but it was not as bad as Broadview. So it's hilarious to me, and it makes no sense that the Seventh Circuit ruled against Trump, but the Ninth Circuit ruled in favor of him. So again, when it comes to these immigration-related questions and presidential power-related questions, even appeals court do stupid stuff. So the Ninth Circuit did the right thing. The Seventh Circuit did the wrong thing. They misinterpreted the law. So that one's going up to the Supreme Court, probably faster than this one, actually. And the Supreme Court is going to rule that the Seventh Circuit was wrong. And the Ninth Circuit will be correct. The Supreme Court will find that they're correct. Okay, because they're not doing something that's pro-Trump. They're doing something that's pro-law. Congress wrote the law way before Trump was president. The judge's job is to interpret it properly, and they didn't do that. So that's why this happened. And anyone who knows how to read could have told you that this law it's up to the president to decide this question. Okay, not judges and not even Congress. And that's the bottom line. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in my next one, as always.